Alright guys, in this lesson we're going to talk about division using partial quotients. So remember, quotients are just the answer to a division problem. So we're going to do partial answers and then add them all up at the end. So our learning target is I can divide 4-digit dividends by 1-digit divisors. And what's important to note is we're going to use a division bar like this. On the inside of the division bar goes your dividend, and on the outside always goes your divisor, and your quotient, your answer, goes out the top. So using this division bar, I'm going to put my dividend on the inside, and I'm going to put my divisor on the outside. So 63 divided by 3. So I'm going to think about how many 3's can fit into 63. So I'm going to first start with just 60. How many 3's can fit into 60? Well, I know that 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times 20 would be, cross out that 0, 3 times 2 is 6, add that 0 back on. 3 times 20 is 60. So I'm going to draw this line down the side here, and this is where I'm going to put my partial quotients. So 3 times 20 is 60. So far I fit 23's into 63. So I'm going to subtract and see what's left. 3 minus 0 is 3. Now I'm going to figure out how many 3's will fit into 3. Well, I know that 3 times 1 is 3. So I know that times 1, 3 times 1 would be 3, and I'm left with 0. So to get my answer, I'm just going to add up my partial quotients. 20 plus 1 is 21. I'm going to put my answer at the top, 21. Okay, let's look at the next one. So 842 divided by 2. I'm going to draw this line down the side. All my partial quotients are going to go on the outside here. So I want to figure out how many 2's can fit into that 800. Well, I know that 2 times 100 would be 2 times 1 is 2, add the zeros back on, that would be 200. So 2 times 200, cross those off, 2 times 2 is 4, add those zeros back on, that would be 400. I want to get to about 800. 2 times 300, cross those zeros off, 2 times 3 is 6, add those zeros back on, we're getting closer. 2 times 400 equals 600. Oops, equals 800. There we go. Because 2 times 4 is 8. So it's going to be times 400. And 2 times 400 is 800. I'm going to subtract. I've got 42 left. So now I've got to figure out how many times 2 will fit into 42. Or 2 will fit into 40. We can just do 40. So I know that 2 times 10 is 20. 2 times 20, 2 times 2 is 4, add that 0 back on, will be 40. So it's times 20 here. So times 20 would be 40. Subtract, I'm left with 2. So now the question is, how many 2's will fit into 2? Well, 2 times 1 is 2. So just times 1. I'm left with 0. Add up my partial quotients. 400 plus 20 plus 1, I get 421. Put my quotient at the top. There we go. Alright, let's look at the next one. Putting my dividend on the inside, 2,826 divided by 5. So, partial quotients are going to go down the side there. How many times will 5 fit into just this 2,000 here? Well, 5 times 1,000 is 5,000. But that's way too much. So I'm not going to be able to do the thousands place. I'm going to have to do the hundreds, because 1,000 is the least. So 5 times 100 would be 500. I think I can get a little closer than that. I'm going to skip up to 5 times 400. Cancel these out. 5 times 4 is 20. Add those 2 zeros back on, and I get 2,000. So it's times 400, and I get a total of 2,000. Subtract. and I get 826. So now how many times can 5 fit into like 800? Well, we know 5 times 100 is 500. 5 times 200 would be 1,000. So I think the closest I'm going to get here is this 500. So times 100 would be 500. Subtract, and I get 326. So how close can I get to 326 without going over? So I'm going to do 5 times 50. Cancel that out. 5 times 5 is 25. Add that 0. That gets me pretty close to 326. Let me try 5 times 60. Cancel that out. 5 times 6 is 30. Add that 0 back on. It would be 300. So I'm going to do times 60 here. That would be 300. Subtract. And I'm left with 26. And since I know my 5s, I know that 5 times 5 is 25, and that's the closest I'm going to get. So times 5 would be 25, and I'm left with 1. So add up my partial quotients here. 400 plus 100 plus 60 plus 5. And I would get 565. I can't forget my last number. This would be my remainder. This is just what's left. It won't fit into a group of 5. So 565, remainder 5. And lastly, Sarah is packing t-shirts and shorts into, and it should say into, 3 bins to store for winter. There are 142 items to pack. She packs the same number of items in each bin. So when we talk about the same number, equal number, I know I'm going to divide. How many items does Sarah put in each bin? So I'm going to do 142 divided by 3. So 3 can go into that 100 how many times? Well, 3 times 100 is 300. That's too much. Too much. So I'm going to try 3 times, let's say 50. 3 times 5 is 15. Add that 0 back on. That's still too much, but a little bit. So I'm going to try 3 times 40. 3 times 4 is 12. Add that 0 back on. I get 120. So that's probably as close as I'm going to get. So times 40 here. And I would get 120. Subtract. I'm left with 22. So how close can I get to 22 without going over? Well, 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 7 is 21. So I think that's as close as I can get, times 7. So I would get 21. Subtract. I'm left with 1. I can't make that into a group of 3. So my quotient would be 47, remainder 1. But to answer my question, how many items does Sarah put in each bin? Well, she puts 47 in each bin, but there's going to be 1 item that's left over. So I would say 47 in each, but 1 bin will have 48, because that 1 there is going to go into it. So it'll be 47, 47, and 48.